The Supreme Court has ruled that the government must consult Parliament before triggering the Brexit process. The court ruling against Prime Minister Theresa May's government could mean that her plans may be delayed or even amended. The decision follows a High Court ruling in November which challenged the government's right to begin formal negotiations on leaving the EU. Now, Tuesday's ruling was approved by a majority of 8-3. Well, the government, on the other hand, has expressed disappointment over the Supreme Court ruling, but promised to comply with the judgment and implement it accordingly. Our correspondent Richard Bestick has more.
The Supreme Court ruling now leaves the government of Theresa May with something of a legislative headache. She would have anticipated today's defeat and has legislation on the stocks, but her deadline is tight. And although those members of Parliament who voted against Brexit will be unlikely to directly defy the referendum, opposition parties are already promising to table a flurry of amendments which could slow the parliamentary part of the process to a crawl. And as Prime Minister May has promised, negotiations will get underway within 2 months. The last thing she needs will be tactical roadblocks put in her path.
We will, within days, introduce legislation to give the government the legal power to trigger Article 50 and begin the formal process of withdrawal. It will be separate to the Great Repeal Bill that will be introduced later this year to repeal the European Communities Act 1972. This will be the most straightforward bill possible to give effect to the decision of the people and respect the Supreme Court's judgment. The purpose of this bill is simply to give the government the power to invoke Article 50 and begin the process of leaving the European Union. That's what the British people voted for, and it's what they would expect. Parliament will rightly scrutinise and debate this legislation, but I trust no one will seek to make it a vehicle for attempts to thwart the will of the people or frustrate or delay the process of exit from the European Union.
The reaction from the Prime Minister's office at number 10 Downing Street is defiant. She will now go to Parliament, planning legislation in hand-to-hand engagement in political fighting. She'll be up against not just those who campaign to remain in the European Union, but also the official Labour opposition and those devolved governments of Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland.